Okay, we're going to look at Chapter 5 in No Canada, and let's begin by looking at some of the important words and defining them. Federal state. In our case, the federal state is all of Canada. A state can be a country. In the United States, each state is its own country, but they've united together. And all of the provinces and territories in Canada unite together to become the federal state. Parliamentary democracy. This means democracy is government by the people. They're elected. And Parliament is a place where people speak and make laws. Here we have a picture of the Parliament building in Ottawa. And the word in French for speaking is parler, and so at the parliamentary building they speak and they discuss and they make laws. But these people that meet there and make the laws have been elected by all of the people that live in Canada that go to elections and vote. So a parliamentary democracy is a group of lawmakers that are elected by the people. Constitutional monarchy. Monarchy means the king or queen. In our case, it's Queen Elizabeth II. And she is the monarch, but she must follow the Constitution that has been written in 1982. And so in Canada, we have all three of these things. We have a federal state because we're a country made up of provinces and territories. We have a parliamentary democracy because we elect members to go to Ottawa, to the Parliament building, and to discuss and make laws. And they're ratified or overseen by our monarch, the Queen, but she can't make laws or rules. She must follow the Constitution that's been written in Canada. And the BNA Act, that's the British North American Act. That is the law that ruled Canada beginning in 1867 when Canada first became a dominion or a country. And that was the law that the Queen or the monarch followed until 1982 when we wrote our own Constitution and our Charter of Rights and Freedoms and brought it home here to Canada. Federal government. That is the government of the whole country. Provincial government is the government of each province. We have a government here in Alberta. There's one in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, BC, and each province has their own government. Or in the Northwest Territories, or the Yukon, there's a territorial government, which is very similar to a provincial government. And then the third level is the municipal government. Municipalities are cities or towns. And so each city or town has its own municipal government, usually a reeve or a mayor and town council that make the bylaws for smaller cities and communities. Ottawa is the capital of Canada, or the federal government. We saw a picture of the parliamentary building where laws are made that affect all of Canada, and that's in Ottawa. Royal Canadian Mounted Police. This is the police force that polices laws for the entire country. Some cities and towns have their own police force, but the RCMP is a police force that enforces federal laws, or laws of the whole country. Now on page 56, we see some other important words and people. The first one is Parliament. We already talked about the Parliament building in Ottawa. Here we see a picture of Parliament in session. In 2019, there were 338 members of Parliament that were elected that meet in the Parliamentary building in Ottawa. So you see, it's quite a group. Prime Minister is the first leading minister of the country in 2020. It's Justin Trudeau. Cabinet are the people that the Prime Minister appoints to take care of certain aspects of the country. The Prime Minister wouldn't be expected to know everything about governing a large country like Canada, so he appoints ministers to oversee different affairs like health or agriculture or foreign affairs or the military or education. So we see a picture here of the Prime Minister with some members of his cabinet. He appoints his cabinet. Once he becomes the Prime Minister, he's able to choose members of Parliament that he would like to serve as his cabinet. Sovereign. The word sovereign means the one who rules. And in our case, it's Queen Elizabeth II at this time. The head of state of the whole state of Canada, again, is Justin Trudeau in 2020. The Senate is another body of lawmakers. There are 105 senators, and these senators are not elected by the people. They're appointed by the Governor General under the recommendation of the Prime Minister. So it's a very powerful group that the Prime Minister is able to recommend. And they also will study in this chapter how they help to review and make laws in Canada. A bill is a document or an idea or a suggestion that any of the members of Parliament can put forward to become a law. So before we can create laws in Canada, it first has to be presented and discussed as a bill. And the House of Commons is the group of members of Parliament that we already talked about that meet in the Parliamentary building. And in 2019, when we had an election, there were 338 members of Parliament that were elected. And when they meet together, they're called the House of Commons. A premier is the first person that leads a province. In the province of Alberta, the premier is Jason Kenney. A commissioner is the leader of one of the Northwest Territories. And so, or one of the territories, could be the Yukon Territory, Nunavut, or the Northwest Territories. And here we have a picture of Margaret Tom, who is a commissioner of the territories. Monarch is the same as a sovereign. It's the king or the queen of a country. In our case, it's Queen Elizabeth II is our monarch. Head of government, as we've said, is the head of government group, and for the federal government, the head of government is the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, in 2020. The word legislature refers to laws that are made in a province. So this is a picture of the legislature building in Edmonton, Alberta, where members of the Legislative Assembly meet. They're also elected by provincial election, and they meet and make laws specific to the province of Alberta. The word consensus means that you must come to an agreement. So in the territories in Canada, laws are made by voting, and they have to come to a consensus, or people have to agree, and then the law is passed.